Okay, so here's something wild. North Korea's biggest export isn't coal or minerals anymore. It's wigs. Artificial hair and wigs make up 40% of their exports.
That's such a surprising shift, but it makes sense when you think about the sanctions they're under. Let's get into it.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
Let's start with North Korea's economy, which is a fascinating mix of survival tactics and covert operations. Their GDP in 2024 was just $26.6 billion. To put that into perspective, that's about 1/70th the size of South Korea's economy.
It's such a stark contrast, and yet they've managed to keep things running, largely thanks to China. Around 95% of their trade and 85% of their exports are tied to Beijing. That's an almost complete dependency.
And China isn't just a trading partner, they're the lifeline. They supply essentials like petroleum, food, machinery, and vehicles. Without these imports, North Korea would struggle even more than it already does. But this dependency also gives China a lot of leverage over Kim Jong-un.
And that leverage extends beyond economics. China's role as North Korea's main trading partner makes them a key player in any diplomatic talks involving Pyongyang and Washington. It's a strategic position that Beijing has used to its advantage.
But let's talk about what North Korea is exporting. Their biggest export category is artificial hair and wigs, which account for 40% of their recorded exports. It's such a low-tech, labor-intensive product, but it's become a key source of foreign earnings for them.
That's because sanctions have made it nearly impossible for them to export traditional commodities like coal and minerals. They've had to pivot to whatever they can sell, and wigs have filled that gap. But that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to their revenue streams.
Beyond official trade, North Korea earns a lot through less transparent channels. For example, they send workers abroad to places like Russia and China. These workers are in industries like construction, logging, and fishing, but most of their wages are reportedly confiscated by the state.
It's essentially forced labor, and it's been heavily criticized by human rights organizations. Still, it brings in hundreds of millions of dollars annually. And then there's their cyber operations, which are another major source of income.
Right. North Korean IT professionals are working remotely for companies in the US, South Korea, and the EU, often under false identities. That alone generated $800 million for the regime in 2024. And let's not forget their cryptocurrency thefts. In 2025, they reportedly stole about $2.02 billion in crypto.
That's a staggering number. And then there's their military exports to Russia. Since 2023, they've reportedly earned anywhere from $7 billion to $13.8 billion from shipments of artillery shells, rockets, and ballistic missiles.
And those funds are reportedly being funneled into advancing their nuclear and missile programs. It's a vicious cycle, economic survival feeding into military ambitions. And through it all, China remains their most critical partner, whether it's through official trade or covert support.
It's such a complex relationship, and it has implications that go far beyond the Korean peninsula. But speaking of complex relationships, let's shift gears to the football world. Barcelona's pursuit of Julian Alvarez is turning into quite the saga.
Oh, absolutely. Barcelona is reportedly willing to spend $100 million to sign Alvarez, but Atletico Madrid isn't even entertaining the idea. They've outright refused to meet with Barcelona or Alvarez's representatives.
And they've made it clear that the player is not for sale. Atletico is planning around Alvarez for the 2026-27 season, so this isn't just about money, it's about strategy.
And that strategy puts Barcelona in a tough spot. They're clearly interested, and rumors suggest they've already made a $100 million offer. But without Atletico's willingness to negotiate, it's hard to see how this progresses.
It's a classic transfer standoff. But what's unique here is that it's not just about price. Atletico's message is clear: the player is not available. That makes it a lot harder for Barcelona to maneuver.
And it raises questions about player preferences too. If Alvarez wants the move, how much leverage does he really have? It's a delicate dance between clubs, agents, and the player himself.
And let's not forget the role of the media. Reports and rumors can add fuel to the fire, but they can also complicate negotiations. It's a high-stakes game, both on and off the pitch.
Speaking of high stakes, let's move to our final story, the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's proposed transit levy is causing quite a stir. They're demanding up to $2 million per ship for safe passage through the strait, and that's a critical waterway for global oil and gas shipments.
Iran claims the fees are for war reparations and enhanced security, but critics are calling it a maritime protection racket. And it's not sitting well with global powers like the US and China.
Under international law, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, ships have the right of transit passage through international straits. Iran's move seems to clash with those rules.
Exactly. Coastal states can charge for specific services like pilotage or towing, but broad transit tolls are a different story. And the proposed fees are far higher than what we see in places like the Suez or Panama canals.
Those canals are man-made and have explicit treaties allowing tolls to cover maintenance. The Strait of Hormuz, on the other hand, is a natural strait. The legal and ethical arguments here are very different.
And the stakes are enormous. The strait carried about 1/5 of the world's oil and gas shipments before the conflict. Any disruption could have ripple effects on global energy markets.
The U.S. is already pushing back, warning companies against paying the levy and even hinting at secondary sanctions. They're also working on plans to secure the strait, including naval patrols and demining operations.
It's a tense situation, to say the least. And it's not just about economics. It's about power dynamics in a region that's already fraught with tension.
Absolutely. Whether it's North Korea's economic survival, a football transfer saga, or maritime disputes, these stories remind us how interconnected and complex our world really is.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Any final thoughts?
Just that these are stories to watch closely. They're evolving, and the outcomes will have far-reaching implications.
Agreed. Until next time.